Now that we know what the Anubis is capable of, let's take a look at some basic monitoring functions. On this screen here, you see we have several different sources. You see we have mic line 1 and 2. If we had microphones plugged into the jack and set up and ready to go, we could monitor those directly. We could look at instrument line 3 or change that to 4. We could look at our DAW outputs, which we set up earlier for Pro Tools, or we could set up an audio stream. We'll leave the stream for later, but let's talk about some of the features we have over here in this section. We can reset our peak indicators if something were to clip. We can send our monitors to our cue mixes, or we can have them operate independently and mix separate cue mixes for the artists. We can change our monitor level to a reference level that's set, or we could dim our monitors. So calibrating our reference levels is very easy. You'll see if I click on reference, it defaults to -24. So to change that to whatever's appropriate for our room, we'll first need to know what's appropriate for our room. So let's say you're aiming for a target of 83.5 decibels. So you'll take an SPL meter, play some pink noise through your monitors, and figure out what monitor level gives you your desired dB SPL in the room. So to get that reference level programmed into the Anubis, we'll need to hold the home button so we can go to settings. From there, we can scroll down to monitor levels, and then we can click on reference level. Now, let's say I want that to be -19. So then we can click away, and it saved our value as -19. And then when we return to the monitoring page, we can move our monitor level wherever we want. We're working. We realize we got too loud. So let's hit the reference button, and there we are, -19. Another useful feature here is the mute button, which we can press, and it'll mute the output to all of our speakers, but not to our headphones, unless you're in a headphone, and then you click the mute button, and it'll work there. You'll notice there's also a dim button here, so we can click on dim, and it'll dim by a predetermined amount of decibels. Now we can set that in the same area that we did before by clicking on monitor levels and then saying how far we want to dim. So maybe we only want 10 decibels, maybe we want the full 20 that comes default, or maybe we want to go even further than that. It's really up to you. I'm going to leave it at the -20 and click away, and then we'll go back. So now we're working, we can mute, we can get back to our reference level, and we can dim our monitors. Another useful monitoring function that's built into the Anubis is when you use the Talkback, you can get it to automatically dim your speakers. So if you hold the home button to go back into settings, we can scroll down to Talks, and then click on Talk 1, which is the built-in Talkback mic here. Then we can turn on this option to apply dim on all speaker sets. So then we can go back into settings, and we can go to our monitors, and select our speaker set, and scroll down until we see sources dim. And now we can set the level that it'll dim this specific speaker set. And our talk will be talk 1, will be the trigger. And that's it. So when you hold the Talkback, it'll automatically dim your speakers. So let's go over to Pro Tools and let's just loop a piece of audio. And we can see we have signal here on DAW 1 and 2. Well, let's say we had more than one source and we wanted to listen to more than one thing at a time. We could hit the sum button and then choose as many of these or as few of them as we wanted. Now, this is really useful if you have multiple workstations, or if you have a reference track on loop in a media player and you want to be able to play both of them at once. You can switch back and forth, or you can sum them. And when I say sum, I mean sum in a monitoring capacity. Now, we have several other options on how we can look at this. We can hit the home button once. And now we can see that there's a mixing page. And what's really cool about this is, let's say we have an audio stream here. We can click and hold there, and we can run this back, and we can actually trim the input level. So let's say that you're referencing your material from a mastered track, and you don't want to mix that loudly. So you can attenuate the volume of any of these sources. So let's go ahead and hold that there, and we'll set this back to 0. We can also see here that we have metering for our headphones. So if we hit the headphone button and we turn that up, you'll hear them blasting away. You can also access the same features about summing multiple things at once or clearing the peaks from this section. Now there's another view we can talk about, and this is the speaker view. So if we're playing on our main set of monitors coming out of 1 and 2, we can mute the left or right channel, or we can change this from mute to solo, and solo just one speaker, or we can solo and then whatever we solo next cancels the last solo, which is super useful. Or we can change the polarity of speakers if we wanted to. So that's all 3 views in the monitoring section.